get a little bit deeper understanding of what advertisers in the marketplace, both big ones, medium, small ones, are looking for in the marketplace, what kinds of tools they're using. And I think importantly to me too is what level of sophistication they're operating at. There is just so much technology, so much innovation out there right now, so many options available to advertisers. And how are they responding? Maybe they're even shutting down to some extent because there's just so much going on out there. And I'm really pleased we got two great friends of data content here to help answer that question from the context of two very interesting businesses that are kind of in the middle of the action. I thought it might be best just to have each of them do a quick overview again, and then we could settle in for some questions. And Len, would you mind going first? Then?
Sure. Do we have a clicker?
It might hopefully be up here. Yep.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for sticking it out to the last session. How many people have heard of Yodel? Just curious.
Pretty good.
Okay, that's not bad. Excellent. So what do? We're connecting local businesses to consumers, and we're trying to do it as quickly and easily as possible so that those business owners can't imagine doing it in any other way. Here's just a little information about us. We've been around for almost 8 years, revenue north of 150, a lot of small business customers. We primarily serve the small business space in the service industry. So think doctors, lawyers, dentists, and then a lot of home services as well. So HVAC, general contractors, people who need the phones to ring and look to us to help them do that. We've won some awards. And in terms of what we deliver, we are a do-it-for-you solution. So when you were talking about sophistication, there's lots of sophisticated small businesses that are happy to run their Google AdWords accounts, or maybe they've got an uncle or more likely a nephew or niece who knows how to do this stuff, and that's great. We're do-it-for-me. So we're looking for the people who are really good at fixing pipes, but don't necessarily know what PPC is versus SEO versus something else. They just know they need the phones to ring, and they need it to ring a certain number of times, and hopefully they have a sense of the value of a customer and what they're willing to pay to acquire one. And what we provide for them are really a package solution. The first part is a website, so you can see it there. Obviously, you can buy websites from lots of places. It's a commodity product. We don't even sell the websites by themselves. Our websites are designed to make the phones ring. They're designed for acquisition and to cause emails and phone calls and measurable results. And then we add to that paid search. We have a wide network of partners that we're working with, everyone from Google and Yahoo down to much smaller directories and other services. And we're letting our customers actually see the calls that are coming in, listen to them, rate them, all of those sorts of things. And then we also have an SEO product. And generally, we're actually selling these products all together. A lot of our customers aren't even fully aware of the difference between SEO and SEM. These are just different ways that we can generate leads for them, some of which happen very, very quickly, like an SEM campaign. Others take longer to ramp up, like an SEO campaign. So we'll serve them all together. And then the last thing we have is a dashboard. We have a big client service department too. So about half of our customers want to look online and engage, and they want to listen to their phone calls, and they want to rate them so that we can improve what we're delivering. Others, frankly, aren't that interested, but they can call our client service team, or we have regularly scheduled calls, especially at the beginning, to get them onboarded and get them comfortable with the value that we're providing. And that's basically what Yodel does.
Great. Russ, tell us about Bizzo.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. Thanks for sticking it out. It's certainly good to be here. It's a really interesting topic, I think. Quick background on Bizzo. Been around since 2008. We've got about 750 clients. And you can really think of us as the complete opposite of what Len's doing. Working with the mid-market at the smallest clients, so customers with 50 million and up revenues, all the way up to the largest enterprises in the world. And particularly focused on the B2B side of the world. So companies that are trying to reach business professionals based on what they do for a living. The core capability, the core technology comes out of our ability to reach and understand the business professional audience. So today we reach about 120 million, about 90% of the US business audience based on their business demographics. So how senior are they? What job do they have at those companies? What industry are they in? How large is the company that they work for? And then that powers this platform, on one side data, on the other side media, for targeting, for identifying the right people you're trying to reach, engaging them with the right content at the right time, nurturing them, whether they be on social, video, display, anywhere they're sort of going across the web, and then actually show at the end of the day what's working, right? So perform attribution so that you understand what's leading to success. What we're seeing out there, and what I think we're going to talk a lot about, this is no surprise to anybody, right? This notion that the buyer's journey has completely changed, but it's what's causing all this chaos, and it's what's causing all of this disruption in the space. So it's an important point. You know, back in the day, if a company wanted to communicate a message to a customer, they would, you know, in the recent back in the day, throw it up on a website, and there was one place to find that information. Beyond that, you basically had to pick up the phone and call, right? You had to talk directly to them. So the message was completely controlled. Google comes along, and they've totally screwed up that very easy way of doing things, right? Where now the customer has the ability to find information about you however they want to. And whether that be through Twitter, Facebook, mobile, you know, tablets, you know, references in customer forums. The journey now is no longer this straight funnel. It's in and out. It's through different sorts of media that customers want to communicate through. And now as a marketer, that means that your job is way harder, right? You have to understand and you have to be able to communicate across all of these different channels. That said, right, so way harder, way more complex, leading to all this, you know, all these sets of questions that we're going to talk about today. It also means there are massive opportunities, right? Because the communication can literally never end, right? You can constantly be communicating with your prospects and your customers. And it allows you to do things you could never do before. You can personalize messages that are directly relevant to the people you're talking to. You can target them across, you know, all of these different areas that they're looking to reach you. You can educate them, right? So you can really help them become way smarter about what you do and why you're important than you could in the past, before they ever pick up the phone and talk to a salesperson. And this all implies that there's going to be a lot of change that obviously has already happened, but that's coming. You know, this I think is just going to lead into the conversation, but there's sort of 5 trends that we're seeing out there that I think, you know, if as a marketer you don't see this or you're not thinking about this, you're behind. You're not where you need to be today. One is the age of the silo campaign is over, right? And what do I mean by that? Silo is, you know, a single campaign on a single channel that doesn't connect with other channels and other campaigns going on. It's not happening anymore. It's now, you know, what you're saying on mobile has to align with what you're saying on your website, has to align with what you're saying on your different channels. Programs, this isn't there yet, but this is coming rapidly with programmatic, with real-time bidding. Programs are going to be always on, right, versus the old campaign-driven set of communications. And they're going to be automated. They're going to be programmatic. Now, you might shift creative in and out, but the communication lines are always going to be open, and you're going to be consistently driving media, but you're going to be maybe shifting the message depending on what that user is looking for. Messages are going to be all audience targeted, right? So they're all going to be personalized based on who you're talking to and what channel you're talking to them on. Real attribution is very close. So really understanding how many touch points on each media source does it require to actually get to success, to convert a user. And finally, you know, at the end of the day, because of the need to attribute all this stuff back to what's actually working, if it's not integrated, if it's not fully tied into your marketing stack, it's not going to survive, right? So those technologies that aren't integrated aren't going to make it in the long run, because it'll create gaps in your understanding as a marketer of what actually is driving success. So with that, we'll turn it back, and I think we'll probably dig into a lot more of these.
Great, thanks. Well, it's kind of fascinating, although, Russ, one of the first questions that comes to my mind, you said you're at the bottom end dealing with medium-sized businesses. Is there any practical reason why smaller businesses aren't using you? Is there a cost issue or technology issue, or are they simply a sophistication, can't get the message out to them kind of issue?
Great question. And, in all candor, we've tried to help address the needs of the small business, and we've failed again and again. So I think part of it is that it is sophistication. I think what Len mentioned, which was very interesting, is that they're doing it full service for those small businesses, and they have a model that's set up for that. We can't afford to do it full service for those customers, right? The budgets just aren't big enough for all the things that we're doing. So that's part of it. I think it's sophistication. I think it's budget related, and then I also think that small businesses at the end of the day are looking for conversions. They're looking for revenue. They're looking for very focused, search-like results, right? That take bottom of the funnel, buyers and convert them. What we do is much broader than that, right? We're helping create awareness across the web. We're helping to educate through the mid-funnel. There's some bottom of the funnel conversion events, but that's all the small business cares about.
Got it. And Len, you've got kind of a nice package in that you're delivering that integration to smaller business effectively, because you're doing so many different types of tasks for them. Would you agree with Russ that really could you have the business you have if you didn't do the level of hand-holding that you're doing?
No. I think when you talk about sophistication for small businesses, again, I think there's a broad range, but our audience, the people we're going after, do not have that level of sophistication, and they really do need hand-holding. I think we often sell the dashboard and talk about how important it is, but we can't count on them even being aware of what we're doing other than seeing that the phone's ringing more often. Although I was surprised looking at where you say, Russ, that the campaigns are going. A lot of that actually applies even in the SMB world.
Does it?
Yeah. If you think about a campaign always being on, for example, a search campaign is always on, and we're constantly retargeting and rejiggering it. The only difference is we're not looking for the brand, in this case the SMB, to retarget it. We're doing it based on algorithms, based on what we think they need to drive more leads.
And it's, that's a great point. This is all kind of following search, right? Search is really the first media that got to programmatic, always-on capabilities because of the measurability, because of the success that everybody was driving. You couldn't afford to turn it off. And as the rest of these media channels become programmatic, become highly measurable, become highly successful, and you can optimize to those success points, it's following the path that search went down.
And we're almost going in reverse, where now we're looking, as we go into bigger franchises and other places, all right, how do we let them adjust and spend more in a given month and less in a given month, rather than just pay a set amount and then we're doing all the adjusting for them.
Interesting. So, is it fair to say we're living in a lead gen world now?
Definitely for us, that's, at the end of the day, I would say 95% of the value we drive is leads and ROI, specifically off of lead gen. We don't sell on a lead by lead basis, but most of our more sophisticated customers are judging us based on, hey, I spent $500 with you. You said you generated, 50 leads. That's great. What I care about is I think I got 3 customers and they provided this amount of value.
Yeah, and a lot of that's just their gut feel that those actually translated into something. There's that last link of measurement isn't there, but they just know as small business owners that it's working for them.
Well, sometimes it's there because they can listen to the call and then they can see. We're starting to get into the CRM side. We acquired a company that does the marketing for dentists. So there we can actually be very clear to them. We're tied into their practice management system, and we can give them a cost per patient evaluation that's very different. So I think as we go further and further into that space, all of the attribution will be solved. But right now, we are at least reliant on them to be able to tie back a lead or a phone call to someone who actually became a client.
Yeah, I would say the bigger the client, right? So as you move upstream from the small business to the mid-market that's really focused on growth, right, into the enterprise that's focused on a combination of growth and sort of maintaining market share. It's not all about lead gen anymore, right? I think marketers increasingly are realizing a couple of things. One is, you can't overfish your pond, right? So if you've got, a tiny pond full of bottom funnel leads, if you're not consistently restocking that pond, you're going to run out of fish, right? And top funnel marketing, creating brand awareness, education, thought leadership, content marketing is all about restocking that pond so that you're not going to overfish the bottom, right? So that's one area where I think we're seeing marketers understand more and more and actually have the ability to affect top funnel in a digital way, whereas historically it was very offline, right? I also think, though, that marketers are, increasingly just able to measure success better and understand that, top funnel measurement or brand measurement is completely different than bottom funnel measurement. The example, the analogy we use is it's like baseball, right? Where you'd never rate the success of your leadoff hitter by runs batted in. That'd be crazy, right? And you'd never rate your cleanup hitter by on-base percentage. It'd be equally crazy. And if you misoptimize that as a baseball team, you're not going to score many runs, right? Same thing goes with marketing. Historically, everybody was measuring marketing by runs batted in, right? Top funnel all the way down.
Right.
But if you try to measure your top funnel efforts by runs batted in, you're misoptimizing your funnel. You really have to look at things like brand lift, brand engagement, right? Even page views, right? Looking to see, are people more engaged with your content by virtue of those activities, and optimize to that before you go down the bottom of the funnel.
Interesting. I mean, one thing I see, we did this wonderful spaghetti map yesterday of the online advertising ecosystem, and elements of it to me look more and more like Wall Street, where they're doing high frequency trading and looking for pricing opportunities and placing thousands of ads all over the place. Do you see any push that parallel any further? Do you see any risk of this thing maybe imploding at some point or just out clevering themselves? I mean, it is enormously complex. There's so many middlemen. Are we moving in the right direction? Is it going to shake out? And Len, you deal with that back end too, so maybe you have some.
I mean, a couple thoughts, right? One is, I don't know if we'll get all the way to, derivatives.
Let's hope not.
But we certainly see a ton of fraud, right? Which is very Wall Street-esque, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our operations team spend an inordinate amount of time dealing with and making sure that our advertisers aren't, being taken, right? And it's getting more and more sophisticated, and the more complicated that programmatic becomes, the harder it is at times to understand when you're just being totally robbed by botnets or when you're click farms or whatever else, right? So that's certainly a huge problem. I think at the same time, though, the efficiency gains are such that, as long as we can continue to fight that fraud fight effectively, the advertiser benefits are just astronomical, right? Compared to the old way of, handwriting IOs. And Excel, a lot of people would tell you in the business, Excel is the largest advertising platform in the world, right? And that's ridiculous because it's a massively inefficient way to do things.
Interesting. You fight that from the back end, I would imagine, some of those
We
same
do,
issues.
we do. So the only way that we can be a profitable company, which I'm happy to say we are, and serve as many customers as we do at the price points that we do, is to have a pretty automated back end. So for us, it's algorithms, and we've got algorithms that are driving our SEM spend for all of our customers, and our SEO. We call it the algo. And the algo kind of does what it wants to do, and you can tweak it, but it's actually surprisingly hard to break it, because there have been times where contractually with one of our distribution partners, it might be in our best interest to manipulate the algo in some way and spend a little bit more here versus there. It's almost like a living, breathing thing in it, and it resists the urge to be manipulated. Sometimes I wish that was not the case. But again, when I look, so that's the negative, and we deal with fraud as well, and work with our partners to keep that to a minimum. And when we see spikes, we know there's probably an issue. But again, when I look at what the world was for these small businesses, it was Yellow Pages, and you'd buy your Yellow Page ad every year, and you really had no idea what value that Yellow Page ad was driving. It was just what you did. And I think now we're giving them a lot more control and a lot more ability to actually see what their money is providing for them. So to me, this is all good. And I think that a lot of the online campaigns, even display ads, they've created an expectation that you should know much more about what your dollars are doing, and I think that's a good thing.
Interesting. How does, in B2B in particular, how does sort of social media fit into the picture these days? What are you doing there? What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. So if you think about B2B, another quick analogy, the B2C world is actually very simple, right, relative to B2B. So we use the example of Coke and DMG Cola. You walk into a store because you're thirsty and you see Coke and you see DMG Cola, and you go right for the Coke because you've never heard of DMG Cola, right? Well, if you saw a banner ad earlier that day that said, hey, DMG Cola tastes like Coke but entirely organic, you might be prepared to make a different decision. That's kind of a branding event that allowed you to choose this new product because it was of interest to you. B2B, though, is, the example gets very different. It's like your boss tells you, hey, I need you to buy a bunch of soda for a party we're going to throw. If you saw that, DMG Cola banner ad, right, you're still going to buy the Coke for the party because the risk is way higher. If you screw this party up, right?
Right.
You could lose your job, or you're not going to be very popular. And that's B2B, and that's how decisions are made in B2B. So what that basically means, back to your original question, is that you as a B2B, in order to make that work for B2B, you have to have references. You have to know people you trust that say, I threw a party with DMG Cola, and it was awesome, right? It was amazing. It made the party. Right? Well, social media is a phenomenal vehicle to accomplish that kind of task, to find references, to communicate with others in your sort of cohort, right? And so as a B2B marketer, a content marketer that's sort of in that mid-funnel, your mission in life is to help people feel comfortable making that risky decision about your product or service. And social media is unprecedented in its ability to reach people with frequency, with real valuable content, to connect people that you trust, customer advocates with others. And LinkedIn is an obvious one in B2B. Twitter is less obvious but very successful. Facebook, increasingly, with the ability to target business people now, is becoming more and more useful as well, right? Before it was a little bit of a morass, right? There's 1.2 billion people or whatever there are in there. Right? But now when you can reach only the 200 million in the specific cohort you care about, it's becoming a lot more valuable as well.
Interesting. How are you?
I could spend the entire panel talking about social media. It's an interesting thing. Right now there's a huge disconnect. We could sell social media all day. Everybody says they want it, but it doesn't right now deliver the leads, that lead gen world, in a cost-effective manner in the same way that search does. And so we're constantly going back and forth. We've tested pretty much every source out there, and we do it every 6 months. We have not made a full dive into social because we just haven't been able to make the ROI work for our customers. We are looking at we certainly can generate pages, but when you're a do-it-for-me solution, That would mean, are we running their Twitter feed? Are we providing the daily content updates needed to have a successful Facebook campaign? That's a very different cost structure, and again, doesn't generate the same ROI on a per lead basis as a lot of the other things we do. So we're looking at other ways, other things that I call social-ish. So for example, whether it's review monitoring, reputation monitoring, review solicitation, I think there's a suite of activities that play in the social world that we will get more and more involved in. I think especially helping service professionals solicit their customers for reviews. That's something that can have a huge impact on the conversion on their website, conversion through social. So we're going to stay focused in the places that we think will generate the ROI.
Okay, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you keeping a little distance from social because you're not convinced the ROI is there, or it's just too difficult to prove it back to your clients?
I think it's more the former than the latter. Again, you're getting into that sort of more nebulous world of branding and maybe eventually, but the tests we've done, we've measured pretty carefully. It's just not there from a pure new customer acquisition ROI perspective. So I think it's real. I mean, that's why we test it every 6 months, because changes that Facebook makes to the social graph could have a huge impact, and suddenly this could be something. We talk to Yelp on a regular basis because what they're doing is obviously very impactful for a lot of our customers. So I think also that what you consider social is getting broader and broader.
Interesting. Russ, one of the things that runs through my mind with you give some very powerful analytics back to your customers, which I guess in many cases are agencies, right?
Yes, often.
I would not want to be a digital agency these days, because with all these different things I'm managing and everyone's got their own set of analytics and you got to master them and stay on top of them. Are there any movements out there towards sort of common reporting or standardizing or anything along those lines?
Yes, I mean, if you look at the trading desk model, right, which is basically, every major sort of agency holding company has created a trading desk in order to help programmatic buying on behalf of their customers. That is, in some respects, that movement, right? What they're trying to do is say, look, this is too much of a morass to try to stitch all this together. We want a single view of the customer. We want a single view of frequency that we're hitting these users with, and ideally a single view of the conversion events. Where's that all coming from? The problem is it doesn't really work, right? The agency model historically has relied on very inexpensive, untrained resource to deliver the work product.
That's polite.
I mean, it's I don't. Maybe some people would disagree, but but I think it's largely true, and that programmatic requires a very skilled set of resources and a very expensive set of resources, and those resources don't want to work for agencies, right? They want to work at high-tech, fast-growth startups, and they want to work at a place where they have tremendous, unlimited upside versus the relatively limited upside at a holding company agency. So it's a very broken model today. And I think what's going to replace it is these giant marketing stacks that are being created by the IBMs of the world, the Adobes of the world, Salesforce, Oracle, in a distant 12th SAP, right? But they're trying to catch up. But that's what is coming, where these are all going to be brought internal. And marketers are going to increasingly be able to run these things internally, just like, by the way, search has done over time, right? It started being entirely an agency play, and more that's moved in-house with systems that you can use internally because it's just way too important to outsource.
Interesting. And what does that say about the future of agencies?
Good question. I think they go downstream. I think they move down to company sizes that are much lower than they're at today. And I think they move to creative and strategy.
Len,
we're ready for them.
Yeah. Are you virtually a digital ad agency for your clients?
We are. Most of our customers don't work with an agency. The closest they come is maybe there's that niece or nephew who built the website. Most of them don't have their own creative, so we don't do a lot in the display world. Where it's starting to morph a little bit is we have a very large, growing business dealing with franchise and manufacturers. And so there, what we're trying to do is help them span the communication gap between the corporate office and the individual franchise locations. There, it's a much more sophisticated play. We're dealing with a marketing department and not Joe the plumber. I think we've learned in the last year how different even that business is from it used to be that we were building websites. They were very similar to the local websites we had. We've now brought in a general manager. We realize it's more of an enterprise sale. We have a large telephonic sales force that's dealing with with the small business space. That works really well. That's not the way you're going to reach these corporate guys, especially if you're not trying to pick off the individual franchise locations, but get a deal at the corporate level. So we are working sometimes with agencies, and we're also getting pulled in increasingly to don't just build us the franchisee websites, but we need you to do the corporate website to have that work in concert. So whether it's through partnerships with bigger agencies or on our own, that's definitely something that we're looking at.
Interesting. And something you might have some insight into, because I'm fascinated to continue to see these stats that something like 25 to 30% of all businesses still don't have a website in this day and age. Do you have any clue as what kinds of companies those are?
I'm continually amazed. I mean, I was at LexisNexis before this, and I was amazed how many successful law firms still didn't have a website. For them, it was, referrals. It's all referrals, and we do really well off of that, and, we haven't needed to build a website. For us, it's around a third of our customers don't have a website.
Wow.
And the website we're building for them is the first website that they have. Other times they'll have a website, it's a piece of crap and they want to get rid of it. Other times they really like it, but it isn't very good as a lead gen tool, and in that case we'll build them a website. We don't call them websites, we actually call them adversites, because their goal is to cause an action. It's not the place that has every piece of content that's ever been written about you and your company. It's specifically there to get people to pick up the phone or to send you an email. So we can have that website sit in concert with another website, and that's not a problem, and a large number of our customers end up doing that and have multiple.
Interesting.
And it's basically just multiple places to reach the audience that you're trying to reach.
Let's open it up for some questions. This is an interesting conversation. I know they're out there, I just can't see anything.
Hey guys, so question, you're talking about social and certainly Len, in your world I get the whole, trying to get that going there. But the gap to me between the agencies who don't get it, whatever, is the whole content marketing, right? So I'm just wondering how that piece fits. It's not about pushing out tweets, because if you can't write an interesting, it's not about your message going out on tweets. So are you guys looking at anything with, and again, whether it's the franchisees where you can sort of say, here's a steady flow of content, and then we can craft messages that you can make?
So, yes.
To either of you, is that sort of a part of the play?
We definitely, content marketing is a very important part of our SEO strategy. We're generating unique content and a lot more of it in the franchise world, especially where we can be working more closely with the marketing department of a particular company. But even in the local space, we're doing it. And as part of our onboarding with all of our customers, we're getting a lot of information about what sectors they're trying to serve, what their expertise is, and then we're creating original content around that.
Is that an army of freelancers?
Yes. And partners who corral that army of freelancers.
In our case, it varies. We have, historically we've said we're a technology company, we're not going to touch creative. But then our customers were so largely bad at using Facebook and LinkedIn that we've actually taken that over. And we'll take their, let's say, display creative, and we'll create a whole set of LinkedIn and Facebook creative to augment that. which has driven tremendous results. It's amazing just how important creative is in the social world. And I think back to your agency question, that's actually a relatively sizable opportunity for agencies to become more, involved in the content creation and generation process, because that's such an ongoing need that they are well equipped to handle.
Good point.